Hello everybody, so it's time for a bit of grain to glass action. So I'm brewing up a pilsner today, and there's a few reasons why I'm doing this particular brew. First of all, it's to honour Mr. David Charles Milne, because some of the ingredients that are going into this beer were part of a very generous donation that he sent me of ingredients that he wasn't going to be able to use because he's moving to Canada for work and couldn't take all of his stuff with him. So thanks again, David, for that. That was very generous of you. And some of the hops that I was sent from him were Hallertau and Saaz, so the obvious choice was to do a lager. So this is the DCM Pilsner that I'll be brewing today. Second reason for doing this brew was to do warm fermented lager with the global imperial lager yeast again. So that's the Weihenstephaner strain, or W3470. The dry yeast is supposedly the same thing. Also White Labs 830, and I forget what the Y yeast one is, but basically they all sell that same strain of yeast, and it's been a lot of people have been using it fermented warm and saying that they're getting good results with it, and so did I in the last video that I did, so I'll put the link up to that video up there. And I want to try it out again, basically make sure it wasn't a fluke, and just confirm that in fact I don't need to piss around with cold fermented lager schedules anymore, because it makes it so much easier doing it this way, or at least with this yeast anyway. So yeah, not saying that it's definitely going to be possible with every lager yeast, because I think there are ones that are more temperature sensitive. Anyway, so that was the second reason. And the third reason for brewing this beer was because so many of you on the 1000 subs video basically asked for more grain to glass videos. So this was the next brew that I was doing, and I thought I'd do it as a grain to glass, and then that would be yeah, basically answering the requests of a lot of you who commented on the 1000 subs video, which I guess by the time you're watching this, by the time this beer's finished, that 1000 subs competition will have finished and we will have drawn the winner. So unfortunately, don't bother going looking for that video to enter the competition. Anyway, that's what it is. Let's get on with it. So I've actually finished the brew already. I'm recording this little intro bit retrospectively, having a little Baltic Porter that came in the Beer 52 box. This one. So it was part of the Oktoberfest box. There were some unusual beers to have in an Oktoberfest themed box. I mean, loosely they're all from Germany, or supposedly from Germany. One of them I saw was actually brewed in Belgium again on behalf of a brewery for Beer 52, so that's another one to annoy Kelvin, Homebrew Griffo. He won't be happy about that. But yeah, anyway, aside from that, this one is a bloody nice beer. So my friend Chris has just been drinking this and told me that I had to open this one next, so it is very nice. The other one that I had before was really good too as well, actually. So there's a Session IPA which was really juicy. But yeah, a couple of good ones in that box, even though it's not really Oktoberfest beers as such, in my opinion. Anyway, gone off on a bit of a tangent there. So we want to what do we want to do first? Before we get into the footage of the brew day, and then on to the tastings and everything later on, let's have a look at the recipe quickly. So this one was very loosely based on a recipe out of this book, which I bought after seeing Dino's, or Tube Dino's, review of this book. It is a really good one. Let me just see if I can find the recipe. So it was in the Pilsner section. I've brewed the Pivo Hoppy Pils before, which was one of the beers that I did first with my RO water, which was really good. But this one was loosely based on the St. Arnold Brewing Company Summer Pils. Now I've never tried that beer, but the recipe looked like a good one. Fairly hoppy, a fairly big addition of Hallertau and Saaz at flame out for that. So not much to the recipe. It does use the Weihenstephaner yeast as well, and it's basically, yeah, straight up Pilsner really, so nothing too complicated. I did alter it a little bit. I swapped the very small 85 gram addition of Munich for Cara Munich 2 instead, just to maybe give it a little bit more colour. Really it's less than 2%, so it shouldn't contribute much in the way of flavour at that rate, or too much sweetness, but maybe, yeah, maybe just a little bit more malty flavour than 85 grams of Munich would give you. And I also didn't have enough Hallertau to do all of the bittering of that, so I added in a bit of Pearl for bittering with first wort hops, and I also just recently bought some crystal hops as well, and I fancy just chucking a little bit of that in, so I threw in some extra crystal, 20 grams at 10 minutes as well, which also just bumped the bitterness up a little bit. So the original bitterness on this, or the original recipe bitterness, was 30 IBUs. I like pilsners to have a little bit more of a kick with the bitterness, so I bumped it up a little bit, and it should be coming out around 38. So yeah, I usually try and brew them up towards the 40 mark with the IBUs, because I think that just lifts it a little bit above your standard kind of lager. So yeah, that's the recipe. So quite a lot of bittering hops, because they're very low alpha acid, with them all being noble. So nearly 60 grams of bittering with the Hallertau and the Pearl, 20 grams of crystal at 10, and then a steep for 10 minutes of 30 grams of Saaz and 10 grams of Hallertau. The global yeast, I basically made up a starter from yeast that I collected from the last brew, and grew that up in about 1.5 litres of starter wort, and we'll be pitching that in as well, but at 19 degrees because I'm fermenting it warm. Very simple water treatment, so just calcium chloride, again, same as I did in the previous video about making the Pilsner. That's the simple water treatment method for Pilsner recommended in the water book by John Palmer, and all RO water. So that's the recipe. I think that's enough waffle about that. Now let's get on to the brew footage and see how it all went. So, brew time! Right, here we are, the finished product. The David Charles Milne Pilsner. So it's still pretty young, but clarity wise it's not 100% crystal clear, but it is very close. And it has only been in the keg now for 10 days? 12 days. 12 days in the keg. So it's pretty young, especially by lagering standards. But as I've said before in previous videos, I'm an impatient bastard, and once it's in that kegerator on tap, you know what it's like. You've got to give it a few samples, but I'm pretty happy with it already. And it doesn't have any obvious issues with it. Again, the warm fermentation doesn't seem to have caused any problems whatsoever. And it's ready really quickly, so it's, you know, I mean, I know you can turn around, there's other people turning around lagers even faster than this, but it's not even 4 weeks from brewing to this, so I'm happy. Aroma wise, it's got a fresh kind of green hoppy aroma to it, and then just that kind of crackery sort of malt thing, but not a huge amount of aroma. There's not really any kind of yeast derived smells there, so there's no kind of sulphur or anything else that you sometimes get with lagers. And then taste wise, just really clean. So again, there's that kind of classic noble hop flavour, slightly herbal, a little bit floral, but very kind of mild and subdued. I did add in some crystal hops to it as well, which are a US hop, but they are very much from noble sort of heritage, I believe, and yeah, it's not really added any kind of what you would associate with American hop kind of flavours to it. Tastes like it could benefit from a little bit more conditioning, just to kind of smooth it out slightly, get it even more crisp. Although it's got still already has a very nice kind of crisp, dry finish to it. But I don't know. Like I said before, maybe it's me having an uneducated palate, but I can't detect anything wrong with that whatsoever. Why would I bother doing a cold fermentation again if I can do this? Don't know, unless I just want to really go down the sort of very traditional route, or I'm using another yeast that isn't as happy doing the warm fermentations. So I've not really experimented with that with any of the other strains that I've got, but yeah, just save yourself the hassle really. So that's it. Grain to glass, the DCM Pilsner. I'm calling that a success. Cheers, everyone.
I'm the dude, so that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness, or duder, or, you know, El Duderino.